Chinese marriages are insanely expensive.
你需要多少彩礼啊？
现在便宜了，
大概多少钱
200万吧。
你结婚的话需要彩礼吗？
要啊，
那彩礼大概能说一个数吗？
我觉得像我这个条件，怎么也要500万吧。
给你20万能娶到你吗
20万呀，有点少了。
那你觉得多少可以娶你呢
66万或者88万吧，因为我们家那边彩礼基本上都是这么高。
娶你需要多少彩礼
我们那边需要80万。
？80万，你觉得这个多吗？
我觉得不多。
姐姐娶你的话要多少彩礼呢
200万吧，
？200万，这么多呀？
不多啊，在成都一套房都买不起。
When you think about the cost of getting married, what usually comes to mind? The venue? Engagement ring? Catering? Photography? In most Western countries, those are typically the biggest expenses. But in China, they're just the tip of the iceberg. In 2024, the average cost of getting married in the US was around $33,900, while the average annual income was about $63,589. That means, on average, an American would need about half a year's salary to pay for their wedding. But things look very different in China. The average cost of marriage there is around 330,000 yuan, which is approximately 46,578 USD. Meanwhile, the average annual income in China is about 41,300 yuan, or roughly 5,817 USD. In other words, the average Chinese person would need at least 8 years worth of income to cover the cost of getting married. These costs often comes before the wedding itself, including cash gifts, gold jewelry, and in many cases, even a house and a car provided by the groom's family. This is commonly referred to as the bride price in China. Bride price? If you ask people in Western countries, what is your thoughts on bride price? They are like, what? Bride price? Don't give her a cent.
It is a joke. Human are not goods.
However, paying a bride price is a totally normal part of getting married in China. It means the groom's family gives money or gifts to the bride's family before the wedding. Why? Well, first, it's a way to show that the guy is serious about the relationship. And second, it's meant to prove that he has the financial ability to support his future wife. This kind of tradition isn't unique to China. In India, for example, the bride's family used to pay a dowry to the groom's family, though that's now illegal. In some African tribes, the groom's family gives cows, goats, or grain to the bride's family to build stronger ties between clans. In many Middle Eastern countries, the groom gives money or property directly to the bride as a gift. As for China, the idea of bride price has been around for more than 3,000 years. It started during the Zhou dynasty way back in 1046 BC as part of something called the 6 marriage rituals. These included Natsai, asking the girl's family for marriage, Wenming, exchanging birthdays to check compatibility, Naji, picking a lucky wedding date, Najing, sending the bride price, Qingqi, confirming the wedding date, the groom picking up the bride in person. The fourth step, called Najing, which was basically the earliest version of today's bride price. During the engagement, the groom's family would give a mix of money and gifts to the bride's family, in the name of the groom. The money was called pinjin, and the gifts were known as pinli. In return, the bride's family would put together a dowry to help their daughter start her new life and home. As time passed, the way Chinese gave bride price changed with each dynasty. From the Zhou dynasty to the Han to the Tang, and the types of gifts also changed depending on what was valuable at the time. In more recent history, after the founding of modern China, the bride price became known as the 3 big items: a sewing machine, a bicycle, and a watch. These days, things have changed again. Cash is now the most common form of bride price in modern Chinese marriage. While other forms like cars, houses, or luxury goods still exist, cash remains the dominant choice. So that's what we'll mainly focus on in this video. So just how common is the bride price in China? You could say it's practically everywhere. According to one study, out of China's 30-plus provinces, nearly 10 have an 80% rate of giving cash bride prices. Almost 26 provinces, the likelihood of paying a bride price is over 50%. And the average amount of bride price varies widely from province to province. Yes, the difference is huge. In some cases, it can be as low as 0. While in other provinces, it can go all the way up to hundreds of thousands or even millions of yuan. In 2024, a Chinese company called Taku conducted a survey with 5,000 participants, and the results showed some interesting patterns. The top 3 provinces with the highest average bride price were Jiangxi, Fujian, and Tianjin. On the other hand, the lowest averages were found in Guangxi, Guangdong, and Yunnan. Across the country, the average bride price was about 125,200 yuan, which is roughly 18,000 US dollars. That might not sound too crazy, right? But here's the thing. In 2024, the average disposable income in China was just 41,300 yuan, or about $5,800. That means the average person would need to work for around 3 years just to afford the bride price alone. Now let's take a closer look at Jiangxi, the province with the highest bride price. In 2024, the average income there was only about 36,000 yuan, but the average bride price was a whopping 175,200 yuan. So a man in Jiangxi would have to work for nearly 5 years without spending a single yuan just to cover the cost of getting married.
你那彩礼多少现在？
我家目前的话呢是在于一个30 29.9。你觉得30多吗？
不多吗？
但是我属于江西还好的。正常。
正常吗
？30不正常吗？在江西真的还好，人家我隔壁一家都是90万。
And it gets tougher in rural areas, where bride prices tend to be even higher. Why? Well, one reason is that rural regions in China face a serious gender imbalance. You see, because of China's long-standing one-child policy, many Chinese families, especially in older generations, preferred having sons over daughters. Traditionally, sons were expected to carry on the family name, inherit property, and take care of aging parents. This culture led to a serious gender imbalance. Today, China has about 30 million more men than women. That's a huge gap, meaning a lot more competition for men when it comes to marriage. And naturally, women gain more bargaining power, especially when it comes to setting bride prices. On average, the male to female ratio is 104 to 100, meaning that for every 104 men, there are only 100 women to match with. But in rural areas, the gap is even wider. For example, in Jiangxi province, which has one of the highest average bride prices, some rural areas have a male to female ratio of 120 to 100, meaning there are 120 men competing for every 100 women. So to stand out from the crowd, these men often have no choice but to offer higher bride prices. Another reason why bride prices are often higher in rural areas is the pressure of social comparison, especially when it comes to face. You know, in Chinese culture, there's a concept called having face, which means earning respect and prestige in the eyes of others. So if family A receives 200,000 yuan in bride price, while family B only gets 100,000, then family A will feel proud. They've saved face. It might sound strange to you, but in many rural areas of China, this kind of social comparison is very real. And over time, it creates a cycle where families constantly try to outdo each other, driving bride prices higher and higher. This also reflects an interesting fact. The poorer the region, the higher the bride price. Families in less developed areas may demand more money from grooms as a way to secure economic stability. In rural areas, many men don't have a stable income or much future earning potential, so the bride's family usually tends to ask for a larger upfront payment. But in urban regions, if the bride's family believes the groom has good prospects, they are usually more relaxed about the bride price and may even ask for much less. All right, so if family finally manages to pay the bride price and the couple is ready to walk down the aisle, sounds like a happy ending for everyone, right? Not quite. In reality, paying such a high bride price often places a massive financial burden on the groom's family. It can take years of savings to come up with that amount. And if the groom has just graduated from college and hasn't started earning much yet, it's usually his parents who step in to help shoulder the cost. In many cases, this financial pressure leads families to go into debt just to get their son married. But what if the groom's family don't have enough money? And here's where it gets even more surprising. Some banks have turned this into a business. In 2021, a poster from the Bank of Jilchang started circulating online. It advertised bride price loans of up to 300,000 yuan, about $42,000, with a 1-year repayment period and an interest rate as low as 4.9%. Wait, a bank offering loans just to get married? You borrow the money, pay the bride price, and then spend years trying to pay it all back? Sounds like a buy now, pay later plan, right? Except this isn't about shopping. it's happening in Chinese marriages. Another interesting phenomenon in Chinese marriage is that a woman's appearance has a big impact on the bride price. Across the board, both men and women tend to agree. The better looking the bride, the higher the price. According to surveys, men think a beautiful woman deserves an extra 42,000 yuan, while women say she should get about 38,000 yuan more compared to someone with average looks. But when it comes to men, appearance doesn't carry nearly as much weight. Male respondents said a handsome guy might pay just 7,000 yuan less, and female respondents were only slightly more generous, saying a good-looking man could maybe save 20,000 yuan. That's way lower than how much a woman's looks can affect her bride price. In other words, beauty earns women more, but being handsome doesn't save men much. Also, age plays a role, though it's less dramatic. Generally, people believe younger women tend to receive higher bride prices, with the peak usually around age 25. On the other hand, older men are expected to pay more, and that number tends to peak around age 35. When it comes to attitudes toward bride price, men and women often see bride price very differently. Nearly half of male respondents think giving money as part of the wedding is a bad tradition that should be scrapped, mainly because it places the entire financial burden on the groom's family. On the other hand, over 60% of women say the bride price shows that the groom is serious about the relationship. After all, nothing says I love you like a fat stack of cash, right?
可是80万我真的拿不出来啊！
不就是80万吗？你可以找你亲戚借呀，找你父母要啊。难道我们5年的感情就不值这80万吗？
那如果没有这80万，你还愿意嫁给我吗？
没有80万，我们怎么在一起啊？
Anyway, bride price. Yeah, it's a real pain for men. But what happens if the groom really doesn't want to pay it, or simply can't afford it? Well, that's where the real problem begins. If a man can't come up with the money, often the only choice is to delay marriage, or give up on it entirely. And this isn't just happening to a few people. Millions of young people in China are choosing not to get married because the cost is just too high. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, the average age of first marriage has risen from 23.6 years old in 1990 to 30 in 2024, a jump of 6.4 years. That's a clear trend of delayed marriages. And the data on marriage registrations also shows a similar trending pattern. Thanks to China's economic boom after the 1980s, the number of marriages rose steadily, from 8.31 million couples in 1985 to a peak of 13.47 million in 2013. But then things have changed. From 2013 to 2024, that number had dropped to just 6.11 million, the lowest in 40 years. Meanwhile, over 300 million people in China remain single. 300 million. This number nearly equal to the entire population of the United States. Well, it is clearly getting harder for Chinese to find a suitable partner. If you ever get a chance to attend a matchmaking event in China, you'll often see significantly more older women than men. Why? Because many men, if they can't meet the high bride price or other financial expectations, would rather avoid the embarrassment and stay away. A survey shows that 47.6% of unmarried youth list bride price pressure as one of the main reasons they don't want to marry. Anyway, fewer marriages naturally mean fewer babies. Since 2003, China's birth rate has plummeted from around 16 million births per year down to just 9.54 million in 2024. Meanwhile, that same year saw 10.93 million deaths, meaning deaths outnumbered births by nearly 1.39 million. Yes, China is now officially facing a population decline. And what does that mean? Well, it comes with a whole range of challenges. A shrinking workforce, an aging population, declining consumer demand, and more. Let's not forget, China's rise as the world's factory was built on its massive labor force. If that shrinks, the entire economy could feel the pressure. The Chinese government is clearly aware of this demographic issue. In 2025, new guidelines were introduced suggesting that bride prices should be capped, no more than twice the average annual income in urban areas, about 104,000 yuan, and no more than 55,000 yuan in rural areas. But whether this can truly fix the problem remains to be seen. After all, behind all this are deeper social issues, like income inequality and the growing wealth gap. But that's a whole different topic, and we'll leave it for another time. Anyway, bride price was originally meant to be a symbol of love and connection between two families. But somewhere along the way, that meaning seems to have gotten lost. These days, it sometimes feels more like a business deal, where women are treated like items with a price tag. And if marriage becomes just a contest over who can throw more money on the table, what's left of genuine love? So that's it for today's video on China's bride price culture. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like and subscribe button to support this channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.